So, I've recently rewatched Sonic 3 on DVD, and honestly, I have to say, it's just as good as it was when I first saw it in theaters. From the visuals to the characters to the story, everything works. It is honestly the best we could have gotten for an adaptation for Sonic Adventure 2. But now the question is, why am I even talking about that? Well, this is because in today's episode, we're gonna respond to Matt Walsh's Sonic 3 review. Yeah, today we will march down into the depths of nothingness. But first of all, who even is Matt Walsh? Well, I can explain that with just one sentence. Ben Shapiro from Temu. Okay, he isn't completely like Ben Shapiro though. He has been on my radar for quite some time already. You see, he tried to sell plush figures of himself in diapers. Now, I don't see that as predatory. I just say that it is a mixture of maybe you should think this through and what I'm about to do is wrong. I know it's wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyway kind of thing. Anyways, as I've said today, I will respond to his Sonic 3 review. It is surely gonna be something, I can tell you all that. I hope you all have a nice little snack and a nice little drink, because now I'll start the video. Let's go!
When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant. And on even rarer occasion, the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that, up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making.
You all notice how he is talking around the subject, right? You see, the way he talks, that is because of a very simple reason. If a video is 8 to 10 minutes in length, the uploader can put mid-roll ads into the video if they are a part of the YouTube partnership program. So we can probably tell what he's trying to do. He's using that form of talking just to stretch the video to just barely over 10 minutes so we can get more money on the video. Sorry for that lesson, it is just something I felt like talking about since it is such a common practice used by bigger channels and it honestly just drives me nuts.
These are the moments when a man must become a hero, when he must lay his very life on the line. And this may take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been tied to the tracks by bandits or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Wow, that's a way to exaggerate it. If your children want to watch Sonic 3 and you can afford a ticket, then there shouldn't be any kind of problem. Seriously, that argument just doesn't make sense. The first two things that you described are scenarios where it is a life or death situation. You of course have to act there as a father, because every decision is crucial for your child's life. But watching Sonic 3 is not a life or death situation. Unless your kid has epilepsy, there shouldn't be a reason not to watch the movie. Making the comments that you made just don't work, and they just hurt the review's credibility because they just don't make sense.
Now, a man in that situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out. He endures Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the sake of his children, whom he loves.
Matt, please, what are you even talking about? It's just a pretty movie, don't be dramatic. While yes, there are certain pieces of children's media that could even make grown-ups uncomfortable, my biggest example would be Courage the Cowardly Dog, Sonic 3 is nothing like that. Seriously, get someone to write your scripts, or at least someone who proofreads them, because the fact that you're trying to make Sonic 3 look like such a horrible movie that suicide would be a better option than watching it is just plain insanity. No matter how much you dislike a piece of media, you shouldn't consider suicide over watching that. That is a little PSA from me to everyone watching this, by the way.
And over Christmas break, that is precisely the situation that I found myself in. Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football, we played outside, we shot BB guns, we played card games and board games. I completely wrecked my whole family in Monopoly 2 nights in a row. Wasn't even close. We took the kids ice skating. I was ice skating. My wife and kids were left dumbstruck by my gracefulness and elegance on the ice. They didn't say that, but I know they were thinking it.
Ooh, nobody gives a shit. Look, it's nice that you had fun with your family. I'm genuinely happy that you had such a good time. But then I have a good question. What does that have to do with the video? You could just have left that out and nothing about the video would have changed. It has nothing to do with how Sonic 3 broke you as a father, which, by the way, is an absolute clickbait title. So please, can you just get to the point of the video? You have now been meandering for over a minute. That isn't how a review works, by the way. A good review is just talking about the good and bad aspects of the movie and your own experience while consuming that piece of media. It isn't about derailing into stories that thematically have nothing to do with the video, just a piece of advice there. Also, does anyone also get a bad taste in the back of their mouth when seeing a YouTuber talk about how great they are? I don't know why, but it just makes that YouTuber unpleasant to watch for me.
These were all wonderful experiences, yet things took a rather distressing turn on the final Thursday of the break when my 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter asked me to take them to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I did. God help me. God help me. I did. Now, before I offer my brief review of this thing that I hesitate to call a film, I must first acknowledge, in all fairness, I never saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Red flag right here. This is something that you should not do when reviewing Sonic 3. You should either watch the first 2 movies or at the very least look up a summary of the first 2 movies. Otherwise you don't have the context of the characters' chemistries, which again makes your review unprofessional. It is normally a bad idea to only watch the 3rd movie out of a trilogy, because if you do that, you're just left confused, which is probably what Matt is going through in that video. Since he didn't see the first 2 movies, he doesn't know anything about the concept or the context behind the plot of Sonic 3.
It's possible that one cannot fully appreciate the narrative complexities of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 without having seen the first 2 chapters in this epic Hedgehog saga. Maybe the other 2 movies are works of staggering artistic genius that would elevate the 3rd installment and lend it the sort of context necessary for me to have appreciated it and enjoyed it, instead of feeling like I was being waterboarded with high fructose corn syrup the whole time.
Wow, you really love to play buzzword bingo, do you, Matt? I have just explained why it is dumb to not look up anything about the first 2 Sonic movies when reviewing Sonic 3. But even though I'm a fan of the Sonic movie trilogy, I'm not gonna pretend as if the movies are perfect in any way. The first Sonic movie was more of a generic road trip movie, but only with Sonic as the main character, and Sonic 2 had production difficulties due to the COVID pandemic in 2020, as well as the pacing being really dragged out. But with Sonic 3, those problems are fixed. The only critique I have about Sonic 3 are a few instances of tonal whiplash, but overall it is the best Sonic movie out of all 3 of them, and it is the most mature one out of all 3 of them. I would believe you about the high fructose corn syrup if you were talking about the first Sonic movie, but Sonic 3 is the polar opposite of that term. That high fructose corn syrup is that movie that will constantly overstimulating you, which is not what Sonic 3 does. Sonic 3 has a fair share of moments that are slower to let the emotion of the scenes really sink in. Please, Matt, next time do a little more research, okay?
But I doubt it. I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays 2 characters. One is the evil villain and the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the 2 break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense but lasts approximately 87 minutes.
The foolishness of that comment is so deep, I can only ascribe it to higher education. You have to have gone to college to say something that stupid.
Excuse me, fucking what? Yes, that scene was random, but it makes sense narrative-wise. Ivo and Geralt Robotnik thought that they had won. They had suits that protected them from the lasers, and they were celebrating their victory since they had the last key to the laser machine at the end of that hallway. Yes, it could have been cut down a little bit, but it was just a joke scene, so I don't see your problem here. Also, Jim Carrey is on his A game here. In the 2nd movie, he was unbearable as Ivo Robotnik. I cannot pinpoint why, but I couldn't stand him there. But in Sonic 3, Jim Carrey is at his best, and some of the interactions between Geralt and Ivo are on a level where I just cannot explain how the team managed to do that.
It's the kind of movie where those same characters before the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor.
You serious?
I'm not going to bother explaining the plot of this film in any detail. I wasn't tracking it that closely, to be honest. I was mostly fighting to stay awake.
So let me get this straight. You didn't watch the first two movies, and you didn't pay attention to Sonic 3. Then what's even the point of this video? If you didn't even pay attention to the movie, then don't review it. Because it would make you look like a cloud chaser. It makes you look as if you hate the movie just because. Even though I was harsh on First Class Glunk back then, I'll give him this. He at least paid attention to the movie, so his arguments held a bit of water. But you, Matt, you didn't even do the bare minimum. Your review is now null and void. Great self-report. You just gave everyone the biggest green flag for people to clown on you. Of course, I don't condone people harassing you. Please don't do that.
As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Okay, that you call Shadow the evil hedgehog is a take where I have no idea how people let you get away with this, because Jesus Christ, you are lying. In the Sonic franchise, Shadow is more of an anti-hero / rival to Sonic. Takes like this actually make me wonder if you even know anything about the Sonic franchise in the slightest. Because if you would know anything about the Sonic franchise, you would know that calling Shadow an evil hedgehog is just plain wrong.
And I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with just your voice. But he's famous, so that's good enough, I suppose.
Do you even think about what you're saying? Because what you just said just makes no sense. Yes, Keanu has some odd lines in the movies he's in, including Sonic 3, but for the most part, he's pretty good as a voice actor. And he was very passionate about his role as the voice of Shadow. He did a lot of research on Shadow's character before he even stepped into the recording booth. He did that so he can get the nuances of the character right. And I have to say, that definitely paid off. Keanu as Shadow's the canon voice of Shadow for me. Every time I see Shadow on screen, I just hear Keanu's voice.
So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts, that's the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier, from blowing up the world with a big laser. And, you know, this has been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades. It's a formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from. This is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas.
Why does it matter that this has been used a lot in media? Also, that it doesn't deviate from formulas is just a flat out lie. Sonic 3 is a loose adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, but they did their own unique spin on the plot of that game. And this next point even explains that.
Now, if you're wondering why the evil hedgehog and the 2 Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in.
They wouldn't die from that. They would die when they were also on Earth, but they were in the space station within the laser, far enough away to survive that. If it was just like in the game, your point would be valid, because the Ark was sent on a crash course towards Earth because of Gyroid, because he was executed by gun. Yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 was kinda messed up at times, as well as the game being overrated. Hot take right here. But yeah, just stop trying, man. You're just making it way too easy for me.
It's because the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living. Like, that's real. That's in the movie. He actually declares his suicidal intention as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the message of the movie. It shows how those characters handle grief. While Sonic took his grief after losing Mother Longclaw as an inspiration to protect the ones that are close to him, Shadow and Gerald Robotnik couldn't handle the grief after losing Maria, and it pushed them to attempt to take revenge on the people that made them lose Maria. In their mind, at least. Maria's death pretty much had driven the two into insanity. Also, Gerald didn't declare his, quote, suicidal intention. I think Matt was meaning Ivo's speech during his and Shadow's sacrifice, but even then, judging from the second post-credit scene, we know that Shadow survived. And then after seeing that, we can assume that Shadow also teleported Robotnik to safety shortly before the laser exploded.
Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kids movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019, There's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect."
Yeah, it at many points has Gen Z and internet slang, and I personally think it works. It isn't too overbearing. It doesn't feel as if it is a company that was desperately trying to be hip and down with the kids. Sonic 3 has a nice balance between more Gen Z slang and normal grounded talking. And also, pieces of media that are pretty kid-friendly can also have darker moments. Going back to Courage the Cowardly Dog, it had an episode that tackled domestic abuse, which is a very dark topic for children. It isn't something that is as weird as you try to make it look like, and Sonic 3 also falls into that category. A nice balance of sillier moments and darker moments.
If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that kind of movie, it's because it is. This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances.
There's only one scene that I can think of at the top of my head, and that is the scene where Sonic gets the Master Emerald. The scene before that was pretty dark and serious, and the very next scene with Wade playing hockey is just not serious at all. But other than that, the tones don't clash too much. It's all pretty smooth except for one or two hiccups.
The writing is just terrible, and the performances are atrocious across the board. Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit. Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision. It is just the product of a corporate algorithm. It is loud and ugly and obnoxious and disjointed, because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film. And they have absolutely no respect for their audience.
And with that, you have officially lost the argument in my eyes. If the people behind the movie didn't care about their audience, then they wouldn't have listened to the criticism, which would mean that the original Sonic model would have stayed. Big surprise, the original Sonic movie looked like garbage, and when they got the criticism, the whole team just changed the model. Also, with any criticism about the movies, the team behind the movies has always listened to it and tried to fix those problems that were criticized. That doesn't sound like they don't care to me personally. They very much do care about these movies. I mean, the guy who helped with the shadow animations also had one of his first jobs as the animator for the cinematic scenes for Shadow's own video game, which surprisingly were the only good thing about that game. And you can clearly see that they put a lot of love into these movies, and you can see that with every scene of the movies.
I mean, this movie could have been made by AI. We are at a point. If they start making movies with AI, we would not know the difference, because they've effectively been doing that for 20 years now.
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, John. Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
Now, you might respond here, as many people on Twitter did after I gave a very brief review of this film in a tweet on the site a few days ago. You might respond that, well, this movie isn't for me. It's for kids. Well, first of all, tell that to the other people in the theater with us. I can tell you that my kids were by far the youngest people in attendance. There were multiple groups of adults, just adults, no kids, whole groups of them who bought tickets to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Also, tell it to the multiple grown adults who got angry at me on Twitter for not liking the movie. The funny thing is that a lot of those same people say, well, it's not for you, it's for kids. Why are you getting so upset about it then? Why are you tearfully defending a movie that you claim is not for you either?
I'm sorry that this clip was so long, but it's best to respond to the entire argument. The reason why people are getting mad at you on Twitter over that take is because you didn't even pay attention to the movie, and you were wrongfully dunking on a movie that people have been waiting for more than 2 years. And the people saying that it is just a kids movie are probably telling you this since your points mostly were just BS. And why does it sound like you're complaining that more grown-ups are watching Sonic 3 than children are watching it? The Sonic community has many grown-ups in it, and they were of course excited to see it, so don't get all up in your fifis, Matt.
In fact, one person told me that my negative comments had upset, and I'm repeating this phrase verbatim, had upset the, quote, Sonic community. Now, those are not kids who identify themselves as members of the Sonic community.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
My 8-year-old loves Sonic, but he's not on Twitter furiously defending the Sonic community from its detractors.
What a stupid argument this is. Of course your 8-year-old child can go to Twitter. Twitter's 18+ since a lot of stuff gets shared there that children just shouldn't see. Your argument is once again just null and void.
So I agree that these kinds of movies are for kids, but I am not the one who needs to be told that, okay? Second, and this is most important, and it shouldn't need to be explained, but really it does, and that's really my only point here. It is possible to make a children's movie that, although it's for children, is still a good, high-quality piece of art.
And that is what Sonic 3 is. If you would have paid attention to the movie, you would also say that. The rest of the video is him talking about the Iron Giant, which, while being a good movie, doesn't have anything to do with the video's topic. As well as him shit-talking Sonic 3 a bit more without any real points. I honestly don't know what to say about this video, other than that this is the perfect example of how not to review a piece of media. It's made by a guy who didn't even really pay attention to it, and his points were either wrong or clearly misremembered. That's honestly all I can say about that video, so I'll just get to crediting the artists who helped my channel. And I have an announcement here, a brand new member to the team. You have already seen her phenomenal work. She made the intro you've seen in the first seconds of the video. Welcome to the team, Flame Plasmanian. Thanks for your hard work. And also special thanks to Indominus Pack, Gator Boy, Spinozilla 2005, Spino Blue and Draken. I'll see you all in the next Cretaceous Critiques episode. Stay cold and goodbye.